everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Leanne. If you are new here, welcome. As you can see by the title, this is going to be a video all about the NCLEX, what I use to study, how long I study, mindset, etc. So let's just go ahead and jump on into the video, okay? So for starters, I graduated nursing school in December of 2024. I just took my NCLEX on January 16th. And I passed in 85 questions on my very first attempt. So let's talk about what I use to study for the NCLEX. So what I use to study for the NCLEX is Archer. That's pretty much all I used. And when I used Archer, I just bought the question bank and that was it. I didn't buy any of like the little videos or the learning lessons or anything like that. I strictly just bought the question bank. And I believe that's like $69 or something like that. So what I did was I studied for about maybe 2 weeks. Initially, I had planned to take my NCLEX on January 22nd or 23rd, but I ended up moving my test date up a week early. So pretty much by the time I started studying to when I took my exam, it was about 2 weeks. So what I did was I would take readiness assessments 2 times a day. So I would take one in the morning when I woke up, and then I would take one in the afternoon. And for all of my readiness assessments, I end up with a very high, except for one where I got a high. And then for the baseline assessment that you like have to do to start the Archer program, I got a borderline. So I think in total I did about 14 or 15 readiness assessments. I also did about 3 or 4 CAT exams, and I did pass 3 of them, and then 1 I did fail. They all shut off at 85 questions. I'm not really sure if the CAT exams go past 85 or not, but all of mine shut off at 85. But I really tried to focus more on just the readiness assessments because Archer does say that like the readiness assessments are more aligned with your preparedness for the NCLEX. So that's pretty much where I focused majority of my energy, was just taking the readiness assessments. So in addition to that, I did have the Mark K lectures, the notes and the audio. However, I did not listen to the audios at all because I just did not have the energy to like listen to a lecture. But I did read lecture 12 about 2 or 3 times. I read the notes, and that was pretty much the only Mark K lecture that I actually went over. I think I might have like skimmed a couple of other ones, but for the most part I just focused on lecture 12, which is like the priority delegation, that lecture, the very last one. And then I did watch Beautiful Nursing. It's like an hour NCLEX review on YouTube. I watched that once, probably like 2 or 3 days before I actually took my NCLEX. So like I said, I studied for about 2 weeks, and when I did my readiness assessments, I did make sure I went back and read every single rationale for all of the questions, especially the ones that I was like guessing on, that I got wrong, that I was unsure about. I made sure I paid extra attention to those. However, I did not write any of the rationales down. I did not have the energy to be doing that. I know some people do that, but I just did not have the energy for that. Instead of writing down the rationales, what I did was I would go and make just like a custom quiz or test over the questions that I got wrong. So I would just select that little box on Archer that would say like incorrect questions or something like that. And I would select that box and I would do a quiz over those questions alone instead of new questions, just so I could go through and make sure that I was retaining the information that I learned from reading the rationale. So I would just like read the question and I would say, okay, well, this is the answer because X, Y, and Z, or this is what happens in this disease process. Like whatever I was supposed to take from the rationale, I would quiz myself on that to see if I remembered it before selecting the answer. So that was how I kind of like went back to make sure I was actually retaining the information from the rationales. Next thing I did was I really had to make sure that I had my mind in the right place. I wanted to be positive, and I always wanted to speak positive words over myself. So although it did take me a minute to get motivated to actually start studying for the NCLEX, I think like once I got my ATT, which I think I got it on like January 4th or something like that, I was like, okay, I got my ATT, I scheduled my exam, and I was like, let's just get to it. And once I got to that point, I was just like, you know what, you're gonna pass. Like, it don't matter how many questions you get, you're gonna pass. And I never once really like thought of myself failing the exam. Like, obviously you do have those little small thoughts like, what if, but I always tried to make sure like I kept those thoughts at bay. And I've always tried to make sure that even while in nursing school, I kept a positive mindset. So like when I was in nursing school, I would say, I'm gonna graduate in December, blah, blah, blah. Or I would say, I'm graduating, or I graduated at this time. And that's what happened. Like, I made a little post-it that said, you graduated December 2024, congratulations, you did it. And I did it. And then when I graduated, I made a post-it that said, you passed your NCLEX January 2020-25 on the first try, congratulations, you're officially a registered nurse. And I did it. So I always try to make sure that I'm intentional with like my thoughts and the things that I'm putting out there into the universe, and you know, just in general, the energy that I'm putting out in terms of like the things that I want, because I know that there's power in the tongue, and there's power in the things that you say. So I try to make sure that I just remain positive. I say all that to say, I just try to make sure I remain positive. So I write words of affirmations, speak words of affirmation over myself and the things that I want. And so far, they have come true, okay? So you gotta be positive. Make sure that you check the negativity at the door and just be positive going into your studying and going into taking your exam. Also, when you are preparing for your exam, you need to make sure that you give yourself a little break. So for instance, my exam was scheduled for 3:30 on a Wednesday. So by Tuesday at 3:30, I made sure that I stopped studying completely. I wasn't doing any more readiness assessments. I wasn't looking at notes, wasn't watching any YouTube videos about NCLEX studying, nothing like that. You need to give yourself time to rest and let your brain rest. So that's exactly what I did. I gave myself a full 24 hours. So if your exam is at like 8 a.m., 9 a.m., I suggest that like maybe the day before. Yeah, so when you wake up the day before your exam, don't do nothing. Just relax. Take care of yourself. Maybe work out, you know, read a book or something like that. Go hang out with family or friends. Like, you already at this point are going to know what you know, and there's nothing that you can really do in 24 hours to prepare for your exam. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're already going to know what you know. So use that 24 hours just to rest and refresh your mind, okay? Also, what I want you to do, I want you to prepare yourself to have more than 85 questions. I know everybody is like 85, 85, 85, 85, but sometimes you're gonna get more than 85 questions, and that's okay. Like, going into my exam, I told myself that I kind of wanted to get more than 85 because at least to me, I knew like, okay, you're still in the game, you still got a chance, like, you know, it's not over yet. But I was prepared to get 150. Like, if I had to sit there and do 150 questions, that's just what it was gonna be. As long as I came out of there a registered nurse, that's all that mattered. So don't think that just because your exam doesn't show off in 85 that's the worst thing ever. That could be the best thing ever for you, because that could mean that you're right there on the borderline, and these next couple questions are gonna push you to that point to where you pass your exam, and that's all that matters, okay? So don't get discouraged while you're taking your exam if it goes past 85, okay? Also, you're not gonna know what's on your exam. Like, you can do all the studying in the world. You're not gonna know what questions you get. You're not gonna have any control over if you get mental health, OB, peds, maternity. I said OB, that's maternity, same thing. You know, you don't have any control over that, okay? So you just need to focus on what the question is asking you and focus on answering the question to the best of your ability. So for standalone questions where it's just one answer that's correct, focus on weeding out the options that you know are absolutely incorrect and narrow it down as best as you can, and then pick the safest, less invasive option that you can pick, okay? For select all that apply questions, baby, when I tell you, don't pick nothing. Don't pick nothing that you ain't sure about, okay? If you have a little doubt in your mind that's like, what if, don't pick it. Do not pick it. I don't care if it's a case study. I don't care if it's just like regular SATA, don't pick it. For my NCLEX, there were so many SATA questions that I only had like 1 or 2 options selected, and I was perfectly fine with that. I remember I had a case study question that had like the little question that says, what are the 2 most important things to do, or whatever. What are your 2 top priorities? I had one selected because I wasn't sure what the second one was. And I'm like, I'm not gonna just guess and pick a second one and then it just cancels out altogether. And now that's making, you know, my test look worse, versus just picking something that I know is safe to do for my patient. Yeah, I'm not doing that. So for your SATA, if you are not 100% sure about it, do not pick it, because NCLEX, we all know, is a safety exam. They want to know that you're being safe. So if you pick 2 options that are safe and good for you to do, that is great. So don't pick anything that you're not sure about, because you could be picking something that will harm or kill the patient if you were to do that in the real world. So you don't want to do that. Just pick what you're sure about and move on. I want you guys to remain positive while you're taking your exam. Do not get discouraged when you are taking your exam. Like I said before, you're not going to know everything that's on your exam. You're not going to know the questions that you're going to get. You're not going to know the difficulty of the question that you're going to get. Like, some questions are going to be easier than others. Some are going to be harder than others. You're not going to know what questions you're going to get until you sit down and take your exam. So when you get something that you're not sure about, don't get overwhelmed and don't get discouraged. Just remain positive. And like I said before, try your best to just weed out things that you know are incorrect, or something that you know is probably going to hurt your patient. Last but not least, you guys, remember, the NCLEX, I understand it's like anxiety filled and everybody has so much anxiety behind passing or failing this exam, because you spend all this time in nursing school, you're ready to get your license and become a nurse. I get it. I felt the exact same way. But also, I had to tell myself that, like, if I go take this exam and I don't pass, I'm not gonna die. Nobody's gonna die. It's not the end of the world if you don't pass. I get it. Don't nobody want to pay an extra $200. Nobody wants to have to wait the 45 days to retest. You just want to get in and get it over with. I understand. Trust me. But take some of the stress and the weight and the anxiety off of your shoulders and just go into it. It's like, this is just another exam where I just get to prove what I know as a nurse. Go into it like that. Because I promise, if you go into it with all of that on your back, like, oh, I have so much writing on this, this is so important, blah, blah, you're gonna make yourself more stressed out than you really need to be. I promise, okay? So do your best to just remain calm and positive, and just keep in mind that it's not the end of the world if you don't pass. You can take it again and you'll be okay. There are plenty of nurses who took the NCLEX 2-3 times and are great nurses. They still became a nurse. They still got to do, you know, the specialty that they wanted to do. And life goes on. Life is going to be fine. So take some of that stress off of your back. Put faith in yourself. Put faith in God. And just believe that you can do it, and you will do it. Okay? Trust me. Okay? Okay, you guys, so that is going to bring me to the end of this video. I really hope that it helps you a little bit. I hope that it eases your anxiety and your stress, and I hope it makes your studying a little bit better. Just keep in mind that you already have graduated nursing school. You did the hardest part, okay? You've taken so many nursing exams. You went through clinical labs. You've done everything that you needed to do and learned everything that you need to learn to pass this exam, okay? So go into it stress-free, worry-free, and just remember that you have all the knowledge that you need to pass this exam, okay? Remember, you are going to be a nurse. You are a registered nurse. You can do this. It's within your reach, and you are going to obtain it, okay? So I hope that this helps. If it did, I'm glad. If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up and leave some words of encouragement for other nursing students or other people who are getting ready to take the NCLEX in the comments. And as always, thank you guys for watching this video. I will catch you in the next one. Peace.